Hello and welcome to your introduction to Google Draw. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you a few of our Google Draw tools. So you're going to see that I'm on my spooky Frida portrait right now, and I'm just going to show you a few of our tools on the main menu. So I'm going to zoom in a bit on the screen if it lets me. And it doesn't want to, so we'll deal with that later. But right up here, I have my file, and this is where, if I need to download this later, we can go to that. But over here is where you can insert images and search from the web. So if I wanted to insert an image like this skull right here, I could say insert image and search the web, type in skull, and I found this image that was a perfect match, so I added it right to my canvas. And it adds it usually as large as your canvas, but I scaled it down to fit about the size of Frida's face, since I knew that I was going to overlay it on top. Then we have our zoom button over here, and the plus sign means you're zooming in. So when you're clicking on the magnifying glass and you're zooming in with the plus sign, you're getting as close as possible to your project as you can. And when you're on the zoom out, you are zooming out. And this one, it keeps you on the plus sign, so you have to manually click one at a time to zoom out. But you can zoom in without having to go into the menu. And then you can kind of use your trackpad to scroll around. You're going to find that when you're working in Google Canvas or in Google Draw, that you're going to be zooming in a lot. I find that I like to work in an area as large as I can get it to fill up the screen. So if I were going to work on this cat's face right over here, I would want it to be about this size, if not larger, so that it fills up about the size of my screen, just to make sure I'm not missing any details. Then my next menu option is select, and this is your arrow. So this is where you can manipulate the shape of something. If you make any mistakes, you want to tweak the scale of something. I'll zoom in a bit. Maybe you want to make something fit a little bit better. You can be very decisive and detail oriented, or maybe you just want to make sure that something covers up an area. So I can see that the skull and the ears are not overlapping properly. You can fix that up, but you can also use the select button just to move something. So I can move Frida's hair over to the left or to the right, wherever I want to put it. Then I'll put that back a little bit later. Then next, our main tool that we'll be using is the Polyline tool, and that is how you are creating a shape, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So if I were to create a shape, you drop the tool menu down here with the little arrow, select Polyline, and then you are tracing around an object. So if I wanted to trace around this leaf, every time I change the area, or every time as I'm tracing around it, I want to click. It's going to show up by default as this light blue color with a black outline. The first thing I'm going to do is go to border color, right over here where my arrow is. I'm going to say transparent to make it clear so I don't see an outline anymore. Then you can change the color of the object. So if I want to make it this nice green color, or you can make it a custom color. So maybe I want it to be more of this yellow green. I'm going to go to the gradient tool or this fill bucket tool here. I'm going to say custom and the arrow or the plus sign. And then you can toggle through the hue and transparency until you get to a color that you like. And you can move the little dot around until you get the color that you desire. If you are familiar with hex codes, you could insert your own hex code if you wanted to get an exact color right up here. but that's a pretty cool green color. And then over here in fill color again, one other thing you can do that's pretty neat is if you say gradient, you can put different gradients on. And gradients are really neat where you can get a fill of like a light color to a dark color or like a nice gradient. And you can create your own as well. So I could make it go from a yellow to a purple. You just have to click the square on each side. Then I'm going to show you one last thing, or hopefully one last thing. You can double click. This is where you can change with that select arrow again. If you don't like the way you arranged your shape, you can change with double clicking. You can twist and bend and warp those edges a little bit. And last is when you're arranging all of those shapes. So this shape is going right on top of Frida's face here. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be behind Frida. So what I can do is I can say arrange, order, and you can say send to back or send backward. I'm going to say send to back, but what happens is it went behind my canvas or behind my photo. I have this photo on a transparency, which I can show you how to do when we're in class, but what might be easier is if you say control or command, you can say holding the object, control up or control down. And you can say control up and it's going to come up one layer at a time. You'll see it, I'll put it over Frida's face. It's going to peek in front of and behind Frida's face one layer at a time. So I'm holding control or command and pushing it one layer at a time. And I'm just making sure it's behind all of her things, but not behind my background layer like that. And again, you can change colors. So after you're playing around with things, maybe later on you decide that you want the cat to be red or you want Frida's hair to be purple. You can change colors. That is completely up to you as you're working, and you can tweak things as you go. I'm going to keep playing around with Frida. I have quite a bit to go. As you can see, I'm working on her collar over here. One technique I like to use is I have my final canvas over here, but I have a second working canvas that I'm working on. So I like to work in progress over on the right side or on the left side, and then I drag everything over as I finish it. So as I finish things, I bring them over. And that's just one way I like to work, so I keep it nice and neat so that everything that's finished goes to my left side or onto my finished canvas. And then this background image just helps me with placement, but that's just my own personal touch. And that should get you started with Google Draw for now. Thanks for watching.